matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
It's time for open conversation wherever you are watching us from. And let's say it's time to have open conversation. The show is a network's flagship political platform through which trending political news, events, and stories are discussed with stakeholders. Now, through this conversation, ATN uses political talks about specific issues, party system, and aspects to explore hope and engender positive impact to our society. So today on the show, our first point of call, we're looking at November 11. PDP expresses confidence on defeating Uzodinma. On November 11, still APC chieftain Sabra Okorocha back PDP candidate Anyanwu. Anambra State now, APC demands Soludo's resignation over failure to conduct LG polls. And in Kogi State polls, SDP candidate denies meeting with APC's Ododo. In governance, Adebayo says President Tinubu not different from former President Buhari, and an anti-party, PDP unsure of next action against Wiki. In NNPP now, NNPP next says no group or individual can suspend Kwankwaso. And we'll look at Gabon coup. President Tinubu seeks consensus against contagious autocracy across Africa. Now, on the show today, we have the trouble of bad leadership, or trouble of bad governance, if you may, none other than Andy Akmotsuve. But he's here this morning as a socio-political analyst. We'll be back to you after the break.
People. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Access to our money will prove in the bank.
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I...
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are? Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Access to our money will prove in the bank.
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I...
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Every day, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what's the blood.
I have fought a very family. Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister of the Temple of Justice.
Access to our money we put in the bank.
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which are you?
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
All right, welcome back to 8 Years Open Conversation. I'd like to introduce you to the troubler of bad leadership. He said it's not just governance, but bad leadership, and that's none other than Andy Apotuve. Good to have you on 8 Years Open Conversation.
Thank you for having me. It feels great to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you for being here. Now, let's get on with the conversation. We're starting from Imo State, where the People's Democratic Party has expressed confidence that Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma is on his way out of Government House. According to the PDP, they explained that signs of his imminent defeat have become glaring following the level of opposition to his leadership, as well as the growing rejection of the All Progressive Congress by the people of Imo State. The National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Honorable Debo Logunagba, said this in a statement in Abuja yesterday. He also said that the PDP condemns in very strong terms the recourse to violence smear campaign and propaganda by the embattled Governor Hope Uzodinma-led All Progressive Congress administration against the people of Imo State. While speaking further, the PDP spokesperson said Nigerians can also recall how earlier this month the APC administration in Imo State attempted to arrest and put the PDP deputy governorship candidate Dr. Onyeriri out of circulation under false labeling and trumped-up charges. Ologunagba declared that no amount of violence, inducement, intimidation, and harassment can subdue the will of the people of Imo State in their resolve to take back and make their state safe and prosperous again on the platform of the PDP. That sounds like a recited line. But now, let's look at it realistically speaking. After Emeka Ihedioha was ousted out of office, and now you have Hope Uzodinma sitting there as the governor, one would wonder, what has the PDP done in Imo State with all the myriads of challenges that state has been facing, from unknown gunmen to all kinds of insecurity? One would wonder, what significant role has the PDP played in Imo State to suddenly feel like because they are PDP, they can easily come back to claim power against Uzodinma?
So, if you ask me, I would say that, of a truth, I do not know what political role or roles have been played by the PDP. And it is because of the fact that the political space in Nigeria, has been constricted. The person who is in charge is the one who wields the most power, so that opposition never exists in any form, shade, or style in any state in Nigeria. If you are talking about Kogi State, you are talking about Bayelsa State, you are talking about Imo State, you would find that indeed the people whose hands currently are on the lever are the ones who determine everything. And because a lot of Nigerian politicians essentially are looking for patronage, they're looking for how to feather their nest, how to eat every morning. Since they do not have any other thing to do, they would always kowtow to the dictates of the person who sits in the government house. So we really haven't seen opposition, even in Imo State. We haven't seen opposition in a lot of these states that you have in Nigeria. And unfortunately, that is why I think that even this Imo State government or governor is likely to even come back to power.
Now, speaking of which, we were saying in Imo State, why do you think that we don't have actual opposition across Nigeria, not just about Imo State? Why do you think that politicians do not understand that there is need for them to play politics in not just when they are in power, but when they are not in power? Now, the reason why I'm pointing that out is, if you look around from Rivers State, for instance, for the 8 years that the former governor of Rivers State was in power, as a former governor, not
yes.
There was no opposition in Rivers State. You can't say there was any form of opposition in Rivers State, because even the APC, they're not the only party, by the way, who made attempts at that, was swallowed up, but maybe by lack of economic empowerment or what have you. So why do you think that opposition politics is not what a lot of politicians or political parties understand, or seemingly seem to be playing where and when necessary?
Okay, so there are several factors that may be responsible for that, right? And I do not think that this show presents us the opportunity to really, delve into these varied factors.
Okay.
However, I must just quickly add that what is very important to note is that our political evolution is such that it did not allow for political parties to have different ideologies. So if you found that the ideological differences were not so much, palpable in terms of how PDP is thinking and how APC is thinking and how other political parties are thinking, you will find why you see what you see today. Because there is no divide between who the APC man is and who the PDP man is. Yesterday, you found that somebody like Rotimi Amechi was a two-time person of a speaker in the State House of Assembly. He became a two-time governor, as a PDP person in Rivers State. One would have expected that because of the very fact that he was a two-time speaker in the legislature and a two-time governor in the executive, he would have been the right definition of the values of PDP. But guess what happened? When the time came, he easily moved away from PDP and he wore the APC gap. So because of the fact that there is no divide, no clear divide, ideological divide between these political parties, you'll find that they therefore cannot have strong opposition. The second reason is because of money politics. The one who is in charge controls the lever, like I've said. And you know that where your nest is feathered is where you would give loyalty. There is the popular axiom that says, he that pays the piper would always dictate the tune. In Nigerian case, there's nothing that can be more true than, he that pays the piper. The governor understands that because he has got all of the monies, he can whimsically share the money of the state. However, he wants to share. If you ever understood what is called security vote alone in the Nigerian political system, you will begin to now understand why there cannot be opposition. A man who has such lush, such wonderful fun on a monthly basis can do about anything. He can take your wife away from you. He can get your children to say to you that you are not their father. Because of the fact that the governors have got so much powers, in our country, you therefore would not be able to find any kind of opposition. Because in the first instance, the people are getting into politics not because they want to go and essentially change the course of the lives of the people. No, they are getting into politics because they want it to be their turn to steal. Therefore, anybody who is a governor who understands how to make use of resources, economic resources, will be there and there cannot be opposition against him. If there are opposition, he cannot use might to quash, he will use the economic power to quash. And this is two reasons, among the several reasons why you cannot have opposition, real opposition in Nigerian political system.
Okay, looking at the economic impoverishment, for instance, which is at the back or at the deck of what you have described as the reason why we lack opposition in Nigerian political system, and then bring that back to Imo State PDP, or PDP nationally saying that they are going to win Imo State, when we know that we cannot readily say this is the role they have played to ensure that Uzodinma provides quality governance to the people. We cannot readily say this is what they have done as an opposition party to ensure that some level of development was attracted to their states, to Imo State. But somehow they have this confidence that because they are PDP, they can win in Imo State. Put all of this side by side, and then you ask yourself, between the APC and the PDP, which you said they are basically the same.
Same. 6.5 dozen. There's nothing essentially different between the APC and the PDP. Anybody who comes to canvass, an alternative argument, I would say that the person does not even understand Nigerian political system. There's essentially nothing that is different. Tomorrow you will just hear that even Wike, who has been the champion of PDP, has moved to APC, because there is nothing that that is dividing them. What can you say?
Is Wike still the champion of PDP?
Yes, he was always the champion of PDP. He was the one-man firefighting squad, you know, that ensured that PDP did not die. He always spoke so highly about PDP. Once upon a time, he said that PDP has malaria and APC has cancer, you know. But today, the body language is beginning to change. You know, the music that is coming from, you know, his camp is one that is no longer, you know, Azonto kind of music. Is one that is the music that is now, you know, very cool to dance to. He's sounding like more like blues. The truth of the matter is that because they have not presented alternative, in any case, they do not have alternative. What they are all interested in is to grab power at all means. Otherwise, you would have seen, like you see in America, that when the Democrats are in power, they are advancing certain ideological, you know, proposals. When the Republicans are in power, they are advancing certain ideological proposals. They're interested in getting conservatives. They're interested in getting those who are liberal, depending on what political party is there. They are discussing about abortion and all that. They're discussing about gun rights. If you talked about gun rights, you understood the position of Republicans as against the Democrats. If you talked about abortion, you understood that. But in Nigeria, call a PDP politician and APC politician and ask them, with issues regarding free education, where do you stand?
Okay.
With issues regarding this, where do you stand? You find that there is nothing that is ideologically different between them. They are not different. 6.5 dozen, essentially.
All right. We'll talk more on party ideologies and how this has, you know, left us where we are in the name of politics in Nigeria. So more on this show. Now, if you just joined, you know, this is Open Conversation, and I'm talking with Andy Apotuve, the trouble of bad leadership. Now, let's get to Anambra State. The All Progressive Congress in Anambra State has asked the state governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, to resign following his inability to conduct elections in the 21 local government areas in the state over a year since he assumed office. As a consequence, the party said the federal government should appoint a caretaker governor to run the affairs of the state. He said this in a statement signed by the State Publicity Secretary, Okelo Madukaife, on Wednesday. Both APC and the ruling All Progressive Grand Alliance in Anambra have been tackling each other over the non-conduct of LGA elections in the state since 2014. Okelo pointed out that since 1999, when democracy returned to the country, Anambra State had only organized 2 local government elections, and that was during the early days of late Dr. Chinwoke Mbadinuju administration and towards the end of Peter Obi's administration in 2014. And the state chairman of ABGA, Mr. Ifeatu Obi-Okoye, had in an interview recently cited litany of litigation at the court as the reason preventing the state from holding LGA elections. Well, in this statement, Okelo asked the Anambra people and the general public to critically engage ABGA on the issues concerning Anambra State's local government. Now, issues around local government, the hold governors have on LGA is a conversation that has taken several turns. Good thing that during the President Buhari's administration, one thing he was able to do was to push for the local government's economic autonomy in terms of controlling their money, which unfortunately is still not fully implemented as it is. Now, but Obi, one of the things that Obi was accused of was that he ran for 8 years without having a governorship, local government election. Now, we have Obiano, clearly, since they said there's only 2 LG elections that has been conducted in this state, what it means is that Obiano didn't even conduct any. Now, let's come back to Professor Chukwuma Soludo. Why do you think a governor in his capacity, at his level, exposure, education, what have you, would actually want to be reminded that there is need for him to conduct LG election because it's actually legal for you to be running the state without the LG elections?
So if he did not conduct it, what next? What would happen?
Okay.
You see, impunity thrives in Nigeria because there is no consequence.
Absolutely.
That's why there is an attorney general of this country, an attorney general. And that's why some of us, we have continued to insist that that office should be divided, where you would have the Minister of Justice that is responsible, you know, for the things of government, and the Attorney General of the Federation.
Yep.
They must be different. There is an Attorney General who is supposed to always push for everything as contained in the Constitution to be implemented. That's his responsibility. The Constitution is there and is clear regarding how and why you should have local government. 774 local government area in our country. And a governor suo moto, or governors suo moto decide that they are not going to conduct election, and nothing happens. Nothing happens. Totally nothing is happening. The president is not speaking about it. The attorney general is not speaking about it. Civil society, they are not speaking about it. Journalists are not speaking about it. So you think the governor is just going to come when he understands that for me, politically, to be a strong factor in Anambra State, I must do X, Y, Z. And not conducting local government election is one of those X, Y, Z. You think a governor will come and conduct the election? No! Consequences make things happen in societies. Consequences. I was conversing with a few people recently, and I said to them that, do you think that you didn't have any more coup in heaven because suddenly God became different from what he was when the devil planned a coup against him? I was asking a few people, and they thought that, Andy, something must be wrong with you. Why are you driving the conversation to that extent? I said, the reason probably why you have not had coup was basically because of the fact that all the people who have got, or is basically because of the fact that all the people who have got capacity perhaps in heaven to conduct a coup against God, figuratively speaking, understand that if they did, the fate that befell devil was going to befall them.
You mean Lucifer?
Absolutely, Lucifer was going to befall them. And God was showing to us, a typology of what he expects us, because he had said to us that ye are gods. I am creating you people after my own likeness. If I, as God, the creator of the firmament and the earth that was suspended by no pillar, I was fought against by Lucifer, it therefore means that you would have infractions, you will have impunities, you will have challenges on earth. How you can deal with these challenges would be about how well you are able to churn out consequences, how well you are able to praise people and motivate people. God was telling us that, and you can find that in the animal kingdom. I love Nat Joe Wild a lot. You will find that indeed, if you erred in the animal kingdom, you were disciplined. If you erred, you were thoroughly beaten. If you erred, you were thoroughly sanctioned. But guess what? The Nigerian political space is such that we have taken captives of the great people in this country. The evil that is pervasive around the Nigerian political space has taken captive of the good voices, has taken captive of those who understand what to do, because of the fact that they know that nothing would happen. The people will not even have the capacity to challenge them. There are people in Anambra State, for instance, now. Yes. Are you wondering why they couldn't bother? You know why a governor, a professor, would be a governor. I had said even in this your radio station that Soludo was going to be the worst governor in Anambra State. When he came into power. And I said Soludo was going to be the worst governor in Anambra State. And we are just saying it because you would have expected that a person who spoke yesterday against evil, against the nonsenses in our society, give Anjak Botive power and see if all of these things would happen. From when I was in school, I've been speaking against the evil in Nigeria. The point I'm making is that today, where are the people in Anambra State? Where are those who claim that they have even got monies to be able to influence things? Where are those who say that they are the most educated in the Nigerian political space? Where are those? In Anambra State, nothing is happening. The president, what has he said? They just keep quiet. That is why this impunity will continue to reign in Nigeria, because the people who ought to do things about it are, staying and folding their hands at akimbo and refusing to do what they should do.
You know what's just going on right now? So someone who is not legally authorized to manage the LGA funds is without the law.
Totally. And that is why I've told you it's impunity.
And then, legally speaking, that's actually supposed to be a criminal offense.
Absolutely.
And now, this is under a man who has been a central bank governor.
Yes.
And now, this is a man who is a professor.
Yes.
And now, all of this crime is being committed in Anambra State, and we're just looking at it like it's one of those.
And there is an attorney general. You don't understand. Who is saying all of these aberrations? He's just not, he couldn't be any bothered about it. That people are sitting and they are appropriating government funds. People are sitting in positions they were not elected into. Do you wonder why these things happen? We just discussed about Imo State.
Yeah.
Was the governor voted into power in Imo State? Till tomorrow, who would say that the governor of Imo State was voted into power?
All right.
The reason he became a governor was because the Supreme Court said he was going to be a governor. But if you check the election and you check how people voted, you will see that nobody was interested in him. But these aberrations plus more will continue to happen in Nigeria because those who should act against these things are refusing to act.
We'll bring all of this back when we talk about the Gabon coup that just played out yesterday.
Absolutely.
Issues that are coming on that, because when we paint these pictures, it's important for us to also ask ourselves, are we ready if the both ends fails to meet? Like we say, God forbid. Now, let's go to Kogi State, everyone. Ahead of the November 11 governorship election in Kogi State, the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Murtala Ajaka, has denied ever meeting with his All Progressive Congress counterpart, Ahmed Ododo, contrary to a media report. In a statement issued on Wednesday by the Director of Communications of the Murtala Ajaka Governorship Campaign Council, Farouk Adejo Audu, the governorship candidate, described the purported meeting as a piece of fake news put together by the administration of Governor Yahaya Bello in its quest to retain power for the APC. Adejo Audu added that since Ajaka left the APC a few months ago, he has not met with chieftains of the party, including Governor Bello and Mr. Ododo. The campaign council further urged the governor to brace up for the defeat that awaits his party and candidate in November, adding that his notoriety for violence and bloodletting, avowed reputation for compromising electoral and security agencies, and his newfound lust for inventing fake and wild news will not save him this time around. On constitutional qualifications for ministerial appointment. Now let's have this conversation. Ajaka left the APC. He was with Bello when he won first and second election. They've been doing all of this together. So suddenly you're telling us that Bello is a murderer. He talked about bloodletting and maybe hijacking the process and getting to win elections and all of that. So are we looking at the battle of the titans just between these two SDP? Because like you said, they are the same class of individuals. So this one knows his own secrets. And is that what we're looking at in Kogi State? And if that is the case, what should be the fate of other political parties and the natives and residents themselves if we're looking at bloodletting?
So I have argued in recent times that we really do not have elections in Nigeria. We don't have elections. If you are tempted to think, or you are deceived to believe that we have elections in Nigeria and by reason of your voting, people emerge as governors, people emerge as whatever, councillors, and presidents, then you must be the most politically naive person that I know in Nigeria. Because elections are not elections. Elections are selections that happen before the day people go out to vote. We have seen this demonstrated severally in the political landscape, particularly in this last election that took place. How people emerged as House of Representative members, how people emerged as House of Assembly members, emerged as president. would you say that is a reflection of the will of the people in the locality and the polling unit where you voted? Would you say it's a reflection? I'm not even talking about the entire Nigeria. So everybody listening to me right now, everywhere you went to cast your ballot, would you say that what you saw is a reflection of what eventually became? Would you say so? What you saw on the day you were casting your ballot. So I'm not tempted to believe that elections happen. These people, the politicians that you have today, understand how to rig their ways into offices. And they're just laughing at the rest of us. You think right now they are considering, talking to the people in Kogi State so that I'm going to get into their hearts and they will come out and vote for us. I'm considering talking to the people in Bayelsa, or I'm considering talking to the people in Imo State. They are 24 hours having meetings and conversations with those they call stakeholders that have capacity to move the pieces on the chessboard in the direction that they want them to be moved. It's as simple as that. They're having conversations with those stakeholders. Stakeholders that are in the military setup, stakeholders that are in the police force, stakeholders that are in INEC, stakeholders that are the bad boys in the community who can go and do certain things. They know this formula. And I get really very nauseated when Nigerians sit down and say we want to go and vote. I have said on this your station, right, on this table, that elections are won by structure. And structure is equal to the amount of money that a person can bring to the table and the amount of violence he can deploy on the days of election. That's what is structure in Nigeria.
So
therefore,
a quick one.
Yes.
We're still on this. Is it not safe, if you look at what Ajaka's team just said in this press release, is it not safe to say that these people are really familiar, that they've won election with bloodletting and all kinds of violence?
Absolutely.
Now, is this a wake-up call for the Inspector General of Police to actually do the needful, considering the ongoing trend of the violence?
I understand that you are a journalist, so you will speak like this. So otherwise, I would have said to you that Inspector General of Police will do the needful. Nigeria has been held in the jugular. I liken the Nigerian situation to be like the situation that took place in America when the police officer, went on his knees, against the jugular of George Floyd, and he couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
As I speak to you, a few people in Nigeria who call themselves leaders, and these people are not just politicians. They understand that, the politicians understand that they must have the support of the police. They must have the support of the military. They must have the support of the bad boys. They must have the support of a few journalists, right, who will continue to speak certain language in the public so that the people will think that indeed they voted. And together, they all reinforce themselves. They all insist that XYZ must become. Until they insist that you become, you will not become. Before Soludo became a governor in Anambra State, he had contested elections virtually in all the political parties. He had contested election in PDP, contested election virtually everywhere. But until he aligned with the system that had the lever in their hands, the lever of power to control all of the different institutions, such that voting will be fait accompli for them, Soludo never emerged. He never emerged. So you deceive yourself to think that the people voted, we are going to the polls, in November, we'll come and we'll go and vote. You are deceiving yourself. They are having, until such a time when we can have real political change change that is born out of the consciousness of the people, change that, touches the core, a restructured political system that can only deliver the best to us. Until such a time, Nigeria cannot get out of this quagmire. We deceive ourselves to think we can get out of this quagmire. The only thing that can change that is for us to have a good president who is interested in this change, and he begins to enforce, begins to put the pillars for this change in place. But if we do not have this kind of president, we have a president who emerged in the first instance out of this foreign. Please don't check it out in dictionary. It's not a dictionary word. Out of this, misdemeanor, out of this evil, out of this contraption that we call election, until we have a president that emerged out of a better system, or even if he emerged out of this nonsense system, he understands that he owes it to himself, to posterity and Nigeria to change it. Until such a time, we will only be playing to the gallery or playing the ostrich and thinking that we are having elections. Nobody, not one institution is ready to change it. Is it the judicature, the judiciary that will give you governors that were never voted for? Is it the judiciary that will say that this person who had a ticket running as a political presidential candidate in his party and another ticket as a senatorial candidate, the judiciary will say that he haven't lost the election as a candidate in the presidential election, that person can come back even though the Electoral Act is against it? Is it that kind of judiciary that's going to help you change? Is it the police force that will be there that day when bad boys are carrying away ballot boxes and everything? Is it that kind of police force that will help you change? The Nigerian system, as I speak to you today, I have likened it to, a wound that has become very gangrenous. What you would do with that wound is that you cannot go there and put red and yellow capsule. You cannot go there and begin to put all of those medications that you would ordinarily use for wounds that are not as gangrenous. What you did with a gangrenous wound will be for you to go there and excavate it from the scratch, even if you are seeing the bones. Until such a time, you would never be able to heal that wound.
Please, what's gangrenous wound?
A gangrenous wound, you see a wound that is smelling on every side. All of the tissues have been thoroughly eaten up. Okay. A terrible wound that has gone gangrenous. That is the case in Nigeria. The Nigerian political system is gangrenous until we are ready to look at. Did you say how you looked? How you looked when I mentioned it? Because it was irritating. Yeah. This is why a lot of politicians cannot look at the Nigerian situation, because to them it's irritating. So what do? They say, okay, let's put bandage across it and let us continue. Nobody is ready to look at it and say, as a surgeon, it didn't matter how irritating this wound is. What is important to be done is to get this patient restored. I must look at this wound, take my gloves, take my implement, and begin to excavate. As a surgeon, begin to excavate. As a plastic surgeon, begin to excavate. An anesthetist, until we get these professionals who truly want to restore this patient back to the position this patient was. Nigeria will continue to be like the patient that is carrying gangrenous wound, moving about the whole place.
And we'll take a short break. When we come back from these gangrenous states, we will be going to talk about SDP's Adebayo, who says that President Tinubu is not different from former President Muhammad Buhari. That will be after the break, everyone.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of Justice.
Because access to our money we put in the bank.
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which are you.
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the temple of God.
Access to our money we put in the bank.
I've always said there are two sets of people on earth, the oppressors and the oppressed. And in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which I am.
No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the taunting. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Today, we have been talking with the trouble of bad leadership. He said not just governance. Like I said, that's Sanjay Motive, but he's speaking to us as a socio-political analyst. Today, let's get back to the position of SDP's Adebayo on President Tinubu versus former President Muhammad Buhari. So Prince Adewale Adebayo, candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the 2023 presidential election, says President Bola Tinubu is going the way of Muhammad Buhari, his predecessor, as far as the economy is concerned. While he was speaking on the space of Daily Trust themed 3 months in power, how has the economy fared under Tinubu? Adebayo described fuel subsidy removal as bad policy. He said in advanced economies, whatever makes the economy thrive is being subsidized. He said in America, they subsidize pharmaceuticals,
Absolutely.
They subsidize health. He said in the UK, they subsidize transportation. So it's like carelessly using a knife to cut someone's skin and you are supplying the person with Panadol, plaster, iodine. Why did you cut the person in the first place? He said, I hope they will correct the error. Otherwise, they may lose time. In between now and 2027, President Tinubu does not fill the leadership gap. We will step in. They can't deny Nigerians good leadership on the basis that there is no good leadership in Nigeria, because there is. We have to make an example that black people can govern themselves, and we have the intelligence. So he just created, Adebayo just painted a picture that a lot of us over time, since this fuel subsidy thing, have been wondering, why take away the glass cup with which I'm drinking water, and then you are now providing me with a ceramic cup because you think that this is more expensive. But in actual sense, you're still spending money even more than what you may be spending in trying to provide this glass cup for me. Now, if you look at that side by side and ask, how do you remove subsidy just on petroleum? And now you're supplying grain. You're giving, you're supplying grain.
You're beginning to see it. You're beginning to see it.
You're supplying grain.
Yes.
You're giving 5 billion to the state.
For them to thief. For them to thief, not even to steal, to thief.
For every 6 months or a month, they are yet to tell us how that is going to work. You're still borrowing money to put into giving to people. Now you're not putting it in the economy, and all of these are happening. You ask yourself, why don't you leave the people where they are, fix the refinery, and then you begin to do this? So what do you think this government is doing with removal of subsidy, ending subsidy that is, and then providing somewhat of a palliative, if you may?
The pig is used to filth.
Is accustomed
to filth. The pig cannot exist essentially in an environment that is not filthy, that is not dirty. The Nigerian political class are used to lies, are accustomed to lies, as much as the pig is accustomed to filth. They had told us once upon a time that they removed subsidy already now.
Yeah.
In 2017 also, the Buhari's administration has said to us that they removed subsidy already. I have my position, on subsidy that I have canvassed variously on several platforms, and you can check them out. I have said severally that removal of subsidy is a scam that they intend to use to cover up other scams.
Okay, explain that.
If you really wanted to address the bad regime that you have in this subsidy,
yeah,
first thing to do would be to, like I said, excavate the wound. Do an investigation. Shame those who should be shamed. But because they do not want to do a good work, they decided to take the back door into the house by saying they want to remove subsidy. It's a sham that they are using to cover up another sham. I dare the president to get into the subsidy regime as we know it to be today, and begin to investigate the system even from the days of Goodluck Jonathan. I dare him. If that's the only thing that he can do, we dare him to expose it. I had said that what took place in NDDC, the day the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration said they were going to investigate NDDC, they are going to call a forensic this, I was on air. And I said on air, on a radio station, I said, if they ever produce the results, I will stop to talk. Yes, and I went on my Facebook post. Nigerians who would not be able to listen to the radio program can go on my Facebook post right now, and Jack Motive. I wrote the same thing on my Facebook post. I said, I want to congratulate him for saying that he wants to conduct a forensic audit. But I dare him to allow the audit to complete and release the report. What has happened to it today now? They have finished the audit. You know what gave me the gumption, the favor, the gusto with which to say whatever it was that I said? I understood that if they ever try to open it, all of them will go in for it.
Okay.
The people that are involved in the stench, in the rot, in the corruption that you find in the NDDC, as it were, they cut across region, they cut across states. They are found in the north, in the northeast, found in the north central, found in the northwest, found in the southeast, found everywhere across Nigeria. Politicians stealing Niger Delta dry. So I dared them and I said, if they ever produce it, and guess what? I'm even saying it on air again here so that people will know. That report would never be shown to anybody. Nigerians, all of you listening to me right now, you think they are interested? Ditto with the subsidy regime. They are never going to have any conversation, any true conversation around it at trying to unearth the evil that took place or that is even still taking place in that regime. How do you explain what you call crude oil swap? Have you ever been able to understand it? I say I've likened Nigerian politicians to be people who claim to be citizens of Nigeria.
Okay,
by their words.
Sorry, when you say, sorry to interrupt you, please. You said crude oil swap.
Yes.
You know, we just signed a deal in Egypt.
Yes.
Where we're going to be swapping our crude oil. Okay.
I am liking Nigerian politicians to be like people who claim to be citizens by mouth, but by their every action, they are not citizens of Nigeria. Let me explain.
Okay.
The Nigerian politician has his children schooling abroad. Every time the Nigerian politician wants to receive treatment, he flies abroad. He even flies his dogs, his animals, his pets abroad. There is no known Nigerian politician that they have money that you know today that you can point their businesses in Nigeria. Show me where Rotimi Amechi's businesses in Nigeria. Where is his business anywhere in Nigeria? Show me where Nyesom Wike's business is in Nigeria. Show me where I can continue. Show me where President Muhammadu Buhari's business is in Nigeria. All of the politicians that you know today that we are adulating, we are deifying, we glorify. You see some small boys, boys who are called data boys, who are adulating them on social media because of 20 naira. These politicians, I ask these boys sometimes, where is the business that they have established in Nigeria? This speaks only to one thing. They don't believe in Nigeria. A lot of them have more than one international passport. They are citizens of Kuwait, citizens of Togo, citizens of Brazil, citizens of several other countries. All the Nigerian politicians that you know, and they are not ashamed of it. from the ones who currently are trying to contest as governors in Kogi State, in Bayelsa State, in Imo State. Where are their businesses in Nigeria? Nigerians, you people are not asking the question. So the point I'm making is that all your politicians, I'm not saying a majority, look at me, all your politicians as they are currently, they claim to be Nigerians, but in reality and in truth, they are not Nigerians. That is why you see that the impunity that they are lying to reign in Nigeria, they are lying to reign with reckless abandon. There is coming a time, we must announce this. We must speak it out. Tell it to all of the streets and all of the peoples in the streets to listen. There is coming a time when the people will say enough is enough. Asha represented that. He said one day the river would overflow and there will be nowhere for us to go. And we would run, wishing we had put out the fire. There is indeed fire on the mountain. And politicians, wherever it is that you have put your businesses, the time is coming when the people will say to you that we are more Nigerians than you people.
Okay, let's talk about being a more Nigerian, more political, if you may. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, we learned that they are in quandary over how to handle the open romance between former Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike and the ruling All Progressive Congress. The PDP officials will have kept sealed lips over its plans on how to deal with what some describe as the most brazen case of anti-party activity ever embarked upon by a party leader. The situation took an unexpected turn for the worse, with the former governor of Rivers State, who been named as a leading figure in the National Campaign Council of the APC. Well, Wike is the current minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, also, and then he was also named as APC Campaign Council. Though the party came out to say that that list was not authentic, and we don't know what could be authentic then, because we're asking, is it going to be campaigning against Oyedire when he gets to Bayelsa, for instance? We understand he may willingly campaign against Senator Dino Melaye in the Kogi State, but would he be comfortable doing that in other states? But let's briefly talk on this matter. We'll do much of that subsequently. Nyesom Wike, you said something earlier when we're talking about party issues. You said, okay, it seemed like the man is bigger than the PDP even now.
Does it seem like? This is what is the reality. Otherwise, Wike has said to the party severally, has challenged them to suspend him.
He was on Channel Television.
Yes. He has challenged the party severally.
Dead them. Sack me.
I am saying, if all the PDP people can hear me, they know that Wike is PDP. All the other people are just... Wike is PDP. So they will not dare to sack him.
So you mean that the reason why Wike can sit in his position, projecting the cause of another political party while bearing to be the member of another political party is because he is PDP.
He is PDP.
And he's got everyone.
He's PDP. Remove him. Remove him. I dare them also to remove him. Remove him and see what happens now. You will know that PDP would be gone in the first place. But all of the people that claim to be PDP today, when did they come back?
Okay. Now,
from the presidential candidate, Atiku, once upon a time said that PDP was dead and PDP was irredeemable.
Okay. So
is it Atiku that wants to come now and tell Wike? As much as I'm not a fan of Wike, I'm not his fan. I'm saying, is it Atiku that wants to come today now to tell Wike that he's more PDP than Wike?
Ironically, if they couldn't pull him out during the campaigns, at the elections, and now it is after the
elections, too late.
He has attained a very conspicuous position.
It is too late. He is the bride that all the grooms, political groom in our country, they are interested in because of his form of politics.
So a certain, I can't remember the print media that nicknamed him the beautiful bride.
Absolutely.
Out on the list. So I'm wondering, in all of this right now, when the campaigns comes, is Wike going? He said last night, from the feelers I read,
they should apologize to him. That's what he said. He said he's waiting for his governor's brothers, the brother governors that he had, that they should come and apologize to him. And let me state it first, and I've said it on my Facebook page. The gods are angry with Doediri. And I want to state it here, and I hope when it happens, you are going to play it. Doediri is likely not going to return as a governor in Bayelsa. And the Akpotive, the political clairvoyant prophet. I'm saying that if things are not done... You said what?
The people seem to like him.
Like I said, the gods, divinity, as it were, is annoyed with
What has he done? In the state of your clairvoyance, what do you think he has done to deserve that?
And so that it doesn't look like I'm campaigning for one against another.
Nah.
Right? I will just state what I want to state.
Okay.
That the current governor of Bayelsa, anyone who can see this should send this message to him. That is not going to be a case of if he did X, Y, Z. No.
Okay.
The gods are angry with him regarding how he has not led Bayelsa well. Okay. Therefore, he's not going to return.
Okay. We'll leave that in the hands of the gods. We'll have more of this conversation and the consequence of some of this action by the political class in the Nigerian state as it is subsequently. That's a major part of the conversation. But let's look at the NNPP real quick. The National Executive Committee of the New Nigeria People's Party has declared that the presidential candidate of the party in the 2023 election, Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso, remains the face of the party and that no group or individual can suspend him from the party. According to the NEC, claims by a faction of the party that Senator Kwankwaso committed anti-party crimes following his meetings with President Bola Tinubu, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party were laughable as he carried the national caucus along in all the meetings. While addressing journalists yesterday during a meeting with the National Working Committee, an NNPP state chairman at the party's secretariat in Abuja, Malam Kawu Ali, who is a national chairman of the Kwankwaso-backed NNPP, insisted that Dr. Boniface Anyebonam-led board of trustees of the party has not been properly constituted and lacks the powers to suspend Senator Kwankwaso. The spokesman of the Presidential Campaign Council and National Auditor of the party, Ladipo Johnson, read the speech on behalf of Malam Kawu Ali, who is the national chairman of the Kwankwaso-backed NNPP, just as they described all actions taken by the Agbo Major-led faction of the party as illegal and inconsequential. Bayo Mohammed Abdullahi, who is speaking at the instance of the Major-led faction, stripped Kwankwaso of his national leader status for allegedly engaging in a political discussion with President Bola Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, and Mr. Peter Obi without the board's authorization. Okay, we got the news, I think, 2 days ago that the founder of the party has been sacked by the board, and that meeting was held somewhere in the southwest. And then now the Kano State came out to say, no, we don't know who these guys are, but this man still remains the founder and the leader of the party. Now, they had another meeting following that, which is where these people are coming in to say, hey, Kwankwaso is still what it is. No one has the power. No individual can actually remove him or suspend him from the party. And I would like to have your take.
It's simple now. Kwankwaso is NNPP, as Peter Obi, unfortunately. And this is what Labour people do not want to agree. Peter Obi is Labour Party. Take these individuals away from these political parties. What you see, we will not be able to win a councillorship election. You know, the goodwill that is behind NNPP is as a result of the fact that there is a Rabi Musa Kwankwaso there.
Yeah.
The goodwill that you see that the Labour Party enjoys today is as a result of the fact that there is, you know, a Peter will be there. So it beats me hollow to hear that somebody else who is not a very important actor in the scheme of things is suspending the one who is NNPP and NNPP is him. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso can decide today that in Kano State he wants to float a political party that is called ZQQ. And ZQQ will win election any day in Kano State. The reason is not again because of the fact that, oh, elections would be won fair and square. But because he understands how to pull the pawns, how to use his rooks, how to play the political game of chess in Kano State. he is now one with the Kanu political system, albeit the rougher political system that you find in Kanu State. This is what you have across Nigeria. Strong men, once upon a time, and Adedibu held sway in Ibadan. Everything he said became. Once upon a time, and Olushola Saraki held sway in Kwara State. Everything he said, he became. Once upon a time, Etoni and Nene held sway in Edo State. Everything he said became. They are able to say these things not because essentially that the people revere, respect, and vote them, but because they have got so much monies. Mark my use of the word. They have got so much monies in their possession, so they can move it in the direction they want to move it. The current president of Nigeria is that powerful also in Lagos State. So this is the reality. And for any individual to think that he can come and say he wants to suspend the Rabi Musa Kwakwaso, the rest of us will just be laughing. From a party that he formed, a Rabi Musa Kwakwaso can just even say to him that, okay, in order not to even fight with you or have a lot of these court cases, I leave NNPP for you. I want to float a QQROP. All of the people, including his assistants, will move tomorrow to the QQROP. And this is why I've said that I dare the PDP to suspend Wike. I dare them to suspend Wike. Because Wike has become such a very important political, strong factor in Rivers State. So that even if he said I'm moving to APC, everything that looked like PDP in Rivers State, and I say this without equivocation, everything that looks like PDP in Rivers State automatically deflect.
No, but this is not because he is better qualified in any sense, but because he's got the power.
No, it's not. Money. Yes, not because he's better qualified. It's patronage. Right, how many ideological politicians do you know today that will say that indeed this is why I'm belonging to this political party? Do you know why I'm not a member of any political party? Because I do not see anything in their political system that I will be interested in.
All right, let's do this now. Here is where we're going to. Let's go to Gabon and have this conversation.
Very important.
It's going to be a very sensitive one.
Very important.
Now, but let's talk about this. Everything we've talked about, from PDP and PDP saying they can win in most states, we talked about opposition. Let's encapsulate everything and have that conversation here now. So President Bola Tinubu has said a comprehensive consensus against the spread of contagious autocracy across Africa is the next step forward with respect to how the power in Gabon would play out. The Nigerian leader who noted that he is committed to working with other heads of state to defend democracy on the continent. President Tinubu stated this in his first response to the early morning Wednesday coup in Gabon. Now, according to a statement by the presidential spokesperson, Nigerian Galali. Now, let's talk about this.
Was there, before you even answer the question, to defend democracy, was there democracy in Gabon?
All right, hold on. Okay, now, this whole thing has centered around democracy. It is shocking somewhat. When you look around the new media, a lot of Africans are excited.
Absolutely.
Niger happened just July 26th here.
Yes.
Nigerians jumped to the high heavens like Jesus has descended into Niger.
Absolutely.
Look at Gabon yesterday morning. People across board were jubilating that a coup had taken place, a military coup, as a matter of fact, has taken place in this. Now, this is the fifth, or not the sixth African country, okay, the fifth now,
yes,
that is under military rule. Now, the president is saying, who is also the ECOWAS chair, he said that he's going to partner with AU and all of these people to see that there is a consensus to work against the contagious autocracy across Africa. Now, what led Africa to where Africa is? Africans embrace democracy, fully embrace democracy, but now, has democracy served Africans in any way? Before you come into that, from political parties without ideologies, from strong men imposing themselves in the system. We have mentioned how many. You've mentioned Tinubu, Yesun Wike, Kwankwaso, and there are several others who have imposed themselves on the system, determining what they want to be, what the people would agree with.
Absolutely.
Looking at the Nigerian election of the 2023 for the presidential and governorship election, and with this said a contagious autocracy rolling around Africa right now, how much of a consensus do you think the African Union can actually come up with to sincerely tell themselves the truth and begin to deal with the issue.
They have lost morality to fight what they call contagious autocracy. As it stands in a lot
morality.
of... Yes, okay. They've lost morality. Explain because that. They watch without doing anything, as we see from one African country, African Union.
Okay, good.
As we see several African countries give to themselves civilian coup.
Explain that, please.
So, democracy as popularized is about government of the people, by the people and for the people. The people always central to democracy.
Supposedly.
Yes, that's what democracy is supposedly supposed to be. And these leaders without shame say to us that they are practicing democracy when their fathers handed over to them and they are preparing to hand over to their children.
But they hand over actually.
This war now in Gabon, his father handed over to him and he's already priming his son to hand over to his son.
Yep.
How much of a democracy? What is that? Is that a democracy? Please excuse me, Nigerians. That is a monarchy. How else do you describe a monarchy?
So maybe a democracy.
At best, you can call it a constitutional monarchy.
Okay.
But that cannot be a democracy because the people are not determining how they want to be governed.
Okay.
I can mention not less than 8 countries for you in Africa today that their leaders have stayed beyond 20 years, 30 years, 35 years. Cameroon is one of them. How do you say that that is democracy? The rest of Africa is watching as they change, alter, affect their constitution, except you want to redefine the African democracy, and I would have no problem with that.
Okay.
Because the Chinese have redefined their democracy to say we are not going to allow everyone choose who will be our leaders.
Okay.
We are going to allow only a selected few who we have trained. We have given the right political binoculars, the right cerebral binoculars, with which to be able to look out for the right qualities that must be present in an individual to be called a prime minister in China.
Yep.
That's their form of democracy, and they have a way of selecting their leaders, and it's working for them. In Russia, they have their own form and system of democracy that they have given to themselves, and that you like it or not, it's working for them. I have nothing entirely wrong with us in Africa, in Nigeria, redefining our space to say, because of the political involvement of our people or evolution of our people, we are not equally conscientized, equally educated to be strong enough to determine rightly, without binoculars of religion, binoculars of ethnicity, who is really supposed to be our leader. Therefore, we are going to have a diarchy. Therefore, we are going to have XYZ. We can redefine this space, because if we allowed the people to always determine, it would therefore be the tyranny of the majority. And the majority may not necessarily be the ones making the best decision. Imagine, for instance, let me give a typical example. The world over, they know that the most educationally disadvantaged people are in the north. In the northern part of Nigeria. Nigerians are also aware that the majority vote that determines who becomes the president of this country is in the north. Therefore, if you were putting these two simple illustrations side by side, you will see that the ones who are educationally disadvantaged, the ones who are not aware, who do not know how to determine, where to determine, by what standard or measure to determine other than religious standard and the belematic standards, they are the ones who determine who becomes your president. That's why we are not interested in whether the person is a school cert holder, whether the person even went to school, whether the person is a BSc graduate. We are not interested. Nigeria is the only country where to become a security man in any company in Nigeria, they are interested in your results. They are interested in seeing your CV, what primary school you went to. But to become the president of the country, nobody could care
you even went to school. Look at the case of our current president. You did not go to a primary school that we are aware of. You did not go to a secondary school that we are aware of, but you went to university. How is that possible? A former lawman who is the current aviation minister comes to tell us that the most interesting thing is that Nigerians do not know is that in those days, strong men don't even read in school. They read from home. What? And I'm careful with the choice of words today. It's only in Nigeria that you find that to qualify you to become a permanent secretary, and I don't know where we even got that from. To become a permanent secretary in any of the ministry, you ought to have gone to do your PhD in this, you ought to have 32 years experience in this, you ought to do this, but to be the president of the country, they say that you can have an equivalent of a school cert so long as you have gone to any kind of secondary school is important. The point I'm making is that we must begin to, come back to the drawing table as a people to say that how can we best govern ourselves?
All right.
Would we continue to govern ourselves by the standards and the dictates of the international community or much more developed world who have developed their people sufficiently for their people to be able to decide who truly can be a good leader? Should we continue to govern ourselves by their standards, or we come home?
Let's wrap it up in this regard. We have heard from Germany, we've heard from other countries over the Gabon coup, the latest one.
Yes.
We have also seen France's dominance, authoritarianism over Niger.
Absolutely.
Even when they are no longer under the authority. Niger is a republic.
Yes.
What a lot of us are watching from the side is, yes, we don't want military rule. However, why are these countries silent?
Who are those that are saying they don't want military rule in the first instance?
Military, we have always been told that the best democracy is better than the...
then every time they say that, I then ask them, every time they say the worst form of democracy is better than the best, I then ask them, are you having democracy in Africa?
Okay, good. Why you have that at the background? Why you have that? Here is where I'm going to. Why we look up to these people who gave us democracy as a beacon of hope or light, case may be, to show us the way how to navigate this democracy. Why is it that what they don't tolerate in their countries, they tolerate it from African leaders? Why is it that things that are leading, that has led to this barrel of gold being used to rule?
Simple. They have their stooges in position, and their stooges help to extend their territories, help them to extend their territories into Africa. Their stooges help them to come and steal from Africans. Their stooges help them to, because I have continuously said the African leaders that are thieves and are stealing from us, where are they taking these monies to?
The contention about President Tinubu's certification is happening in the Chicago State University in the United States.
Yes.
All of the issues around his education and the corruption, drug deals, for future and all of that are tied to the United States.
Yes.
Yet, in the face of all of this...
They have even removed the year from the yearbook. If you go to Chicago, this is yearbook. The year that they said they have even removed it.
Yeah.
You will not see it there. It tells you that the international community, they are collaborators. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to paint a typical example of why I think that why I know that the international community, they are collaborators.
You have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
So simple. We were told by the president of Kenya that
William Ruto,
Africa, as a matter of fact, is not yet democratic. Africa is not yet independent.
That was in the recent meeting in France.
Yes. He had mentioned to us, and another leader had mentioned to us, citing example of the case in Libya, that I think it was a leader in South Africa, right? That said that himself, he did not join that meeting. A few people were going to Libya to go and settle the issue in Libya. NATO called them and told them to go back, and that they should go to their countries that they are coming from, that they had nothing to do in Libya because NATO had already taken charge. Libya is a country in Africa. African leaders were going to solve the problem. Then NATO called them to go back. Let me even shock you. What is worrisome is that It is so easy for leaders in Europe to come, get visas to come to Africa. So easy. But guess what? It is so arduous and difficult for the peoples of Africa to get visa to go to Europe. All of the African leaders that you know today, they steal monies and they go and domicile these monies in Europe, in France, in these countries abroad, in America. And they sit down, spend our monies, and determine for us how we are going to use our monies should they return it. It speaks to the fact that we are still not ready for this development. Sometimes I wonder whether we were too quick at asking even for independence. You know, when a young child is quickly demanding for meat from the mother, even without having the set of instruments in the mouth with which to be able to masticate properly that meat, what that child is calling for is pain.
All right.
Today, as I speak to you, Africans, Nigerians must understand that we must begin to give to ourselves what we can understand. We must come back to the drawing table to redefine how we want to be governed. Otherwise, a few people will continue to have the civilian coup perpetuate themselves in office, steal monies from Africa, help the foreigners to make away with our common good, with our common wealth, without the people benefiting and the people suffering. Go see what's happening in Niger. Poverty is on the street. Come see what's happening in Nigeria. Poverty is on the street. See what is happening in Gabon. Poverty is on the street. Yet a few people, together with the West, are enjoying the wealth of this country until we are willing to come to the table to redefine the things that will and must govern us. Nigerians and Africans must continue to find themselves in these kind of situations.
Thank you so much, Andy Akpotov, and that's a wrap, everyone. It's been an honor hosting you on the show today, and then thank you for all the issues you've elucidated.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If you missed any part of the conversation, our shows are streamed fully on our Facebook and YouTube pages. You can get the full details, and that's Atlantic Television Network. And of course, you can catch us live wherever you are by downloading our app from the App Store, ATN Live, or you can watch us live on our website, AtlanticTelevisionNetwork.tv. Thank you for being part of the show today. My name is Vivian Douglas. Catch you on this other side of 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Representing people. Mr. President, my people are under siege.
I will place economic stability and confidence.
To condemn this act and call for immediate release